Hello and welcome everybody to Metaverse Live tonight. I hope you enjoyed our model moment with Beatrice Serendipity, who took our first slot, and we're very happy to see the chat in the groups. Thank you very much, because they're very enthusiastic. So thank you, Nino, thank you, B, thank you, Kim. I'm joined here tonight by, well, you know, by Melbourne's writer and Sigmund Neerminster. Hello, chaps.
Good evening. How's it all going?
Hi, Dooza. Good to be back.
I'm glad we're more focused tonight. But also, we're making it a Metaverse hour, because we have with us Recka Wuyts, who is the barnstorming, burning fire behind the Metaverse Tribune. Hello, Recka.
Hello, Dooza. Mal, Sigmund. Nice to see you guys.
And we also see in his casual loveliness the redoubtable, beautiful, laid-back CEO, talented. What can I say? We have women barnstorming here outside the doors of the studio, so we're 5,000 feet up. Our CEO, Robustus Hacks. Welcome, Rob.
Hello.
We're lucky, aren't we?
That was a stunning anticlimax in the build-up there. Just hello.
Any women who want Robustus Hacks, please line up now.
Oh,
okay, so why are we here, I wonder? And you might be able to see a little clue behind our window here, behind the chaps. And there's something spinning around. I'm going to invite Rob to come in and tell us what this is right away.
As you may or may not have known, we used to have a sim here in Second Life called Metaverse Island, and it was built by Lumiere Noir, and renowned builder. And we had it for 2 years. It was very successful. After about 2 years, we decided that we were going to have to rebuild. So we shut down Metaverse Island, and we commissioned a rebuild in the past couple months. And that build is going to be opening very soon.
So that's what we're seeing behind us, is it, Rob?
Yes, right out the window behind us is a space station, and I will try to cut to an outside view so we can see.
Yeah, because the very dexterous Mr. Hacks, and ladies might be interested in his very dexterousness, is actually filming this live, recording it, and talking to us at the same time, which for a man of few words is an undeniable feat.
Yeah, I may get distracted.
Well, I'm going to bring Sigmund in here, because I know that Sigmund's very keen on the satellite. What are you looking forward to most of us moving into it, Siggy?
Well, you know, I have to say that for a lot of the time, the one thing I'd really like to get out of a new location is I remember to actually get myself a landmark, because it just seems to be that ever since I've been part of Metaverse, I've discovered that I have a knack of either not taking landmarks or losing them. So maybe this time will be the ideal time. That here we are, what is it, 5,000 feet in the sky. Maybe now I'll have a landmark and I'll be able to get here easily. So that'll be a big plus for me.
Well, we'll have a little team looking for you, Sigmund, just to make sure you don't get lost, and hauling you up to the satellite by whatever means you prefer to come up. And we are very high up. It's here to be said, and so there will be modes of transport, various modes of transport. You may not even need a landmark, Siggy. So, Recka, what brings you on board with the satellite? Because I know that, you know, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not we should do this at the beginning.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of in the same camp with everybody else. I would just like to have an office and a place to go. My inclination when I talked with Rob about it, as far as what my point of view would be, is that traditionally newspapers are brick and mortar as far as that sense of foundation. I mean, if you look New York Times or you look at any of the great grand newspapers, and that's what I, in my fantasy, that's kind of the way that I imagine the Tribune is, and so that was all that my vote was for. But I'm fine with the space station, and the way that Rob explained it to me made sense. This is the metaverse, and it's a new day and age, and so let's climb on board and do it. And so I said, fine, let's build the thing and get to work.
Right. I see. Mal, I know you've been itching to get up here, and we do have big offices here, which is very nice. I don't know whether anybody's picked one out. Well, actually, you're not allowed to. I think probably we're going to have a tombola, which is very futuristic.
All things must pass, as they say. And, I couldn't believe it when we took down the Metaverse Island build, which was so great and unique in its own right. But I have to say, I have been itching, and indeed I tweeted this show just before we came on air. I finally said the words, now satellite broadcasting from NBC. I've just been itching for all these months. I've been itching to say we're now a satellite broadcaster, because it's true. And, what people aren't, that build out there, I don't know how much of the camera Rob pulled in for people, but it is absolutely colossal. We the newsroom, flying saucer, as it were, that we're in, is actually kilometers away from that thing, and inside there is absolutely huge. I mean, I've been coming up here a few times now, and I'm still getting totally lost. I mean, it really feels like a living workstation. Sorry, not workstation. What's the name? So, satellite.
Space station.
Space station, of course, yeah. I mean, it is gigantic. There's a whole ecosystem in there that you can feel, and there's some, wonderful technology or virtual technology running. And I'm really looking forward to when we get it up and going and get some shops and other things in there too. It's going to be a spectacular place for people to come and see, I think. Not to mention to broadcast from.
Well, we've already got people on the list, I have to say, and I know that a lot of the metaverse stuff are running around going, Bagsy that flat, and Bagsy dibs this, and dibs that. I don't know what that is in American. What is that in American?
Means you got first dibs.
Yeah.
First pick. I want
first pick.
First pick on the flats, for example, because there are flats in there and there are gardens in there and what have you. And we want people to come along and join in the community, of course we do. And like all self-respecting space stations, we are going to have little teams of people who will be operating as tour guides, although they will be armed to the teeth. You will be expected to wear extraordinary avatars and extraordinary clothes, and we're pursuing certain designers, some of whom have already agreed to come on. So what else do we want? We want games, and we want plays, and we have the most beautiful performance space, don't we, Rob?
Yeah, well, let me say, we're not going to show you the inside this week. If all goes well, we will be doing Metaverse Live again in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we'll release some teaser pictures of the inside. But we want everyone to come on the launch, which is going to be on June the 1st. So that's when we're opening up the sim to the public. And we'd like everyone to see it firsthand, because it really is an amazing build. And what you're saying with the community is exactly right. With Metaverse Island, we had shops. We didn't really have too much other than that besides our
well, we had events
besides our studios.
At our studios, yeah.
And we really wanted to have like an inclusive city within the ship, so we've done a pretty good job of doing that. So we have residential, we have commercial, we have a theater, an auditorium, an art gallery.
And we're looking for people to inhabit it, of course. There is, to make spaces their own and to actually use their imagination in there, because after all, we're a broadcasting company. We like to see people being out there, as it were. Real space cadets, actually. A little team of space cadets. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Who's going to be head space cadet?
No comment. No comment. Cadet at my age.
Well, I mean, you're going to be something. I don't know. What if you were to do a role, and there will be a slight role play element to this, as much as you like or as little as you like, really. But okay, Mal, I'm going to challenge you now. If you were to do a role play element in this, what would it be? What would you choose to do? The rest of you can get thinking about this, okay?
It would be me that got put on the spot, wouldn't it? Captain Kirk? No, I don't think so.
No, Captain is out. Sorry,
it
love.
won't. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Authoritarian. Anyway, the ship won't move. I hasten to add, actually, that everybody's seen this studio at Metaverse Live for the last few months. We're a sort of little pod in ourselves that sort of goes with the satellite, but we take the Metaverse Live pod to all sorts of sims. We literally travel with it. It moves, whereas the space station is very sort of static. So I guess a role play.
You're just playing for time, actually. I'm going to bring Sigmund in.
Yeah, I am playing for time, but I haven't got a clue.
Right, Sigmund, what would you be?
Well, you've given me at least a minute to think about it, so that's great. But, I'm going to go back to what Recka said earlier, this notion of, the old-style newsroom. Now, here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a little corner, a little room or whatever, which actually has got some desks in there. That's got some typewriters in there, where I can wear a little hat with press sort of stuffed into a band in there, and somewhere where you can sort of, you can sit in there, and maybe there'll be a small bar there with some bourbon, so that when you're working late into the night. So even though we've got this great big futuristic 21st century satellite space station full of space cadets, there'll be something in there that still touches onto that old idea of what it's all about, and particularly from the element of the news. There's something wonderful about, these. I love those really old black and white films where you have these grizzled newsmen, who have a piece of paper and a pen, and they're smoking and drinking, and so.
When does the work get done? Excuse me.
The work does. It gets done. It gets done at the last minute before the presses go, and that whole thing. So, I'd like to have that role, which is the grizzled old newsman that's still around there, who's jaded and cynical, a bit like me in real life, I suspect.
It's funny because we got Recka sitting here, and I know that way back in history.
Who is grizzled and old? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. Recka used to be on the old
NBC News
way back, and I do remember there was an offshoot series where Recka did do that sort of first person. It wasn't kind of a private eye, but it was a little adventure you did, Recka, wasn't it? Where you played the newsman out on the road, having an adventure, getting ever more confused, if I remember.
Right. I'm very fast going to bring this back to the younger generation, i.e. Robustus hacks. Okay, and I'm going to say, why, Rob? Why a space satellite, space station?
I always wanted like a city, but a sim is not really big enough to have a kind of realistic looking city. You have 2 skyscrapers, or you could try to dress it up any way you want. It's always kind of left. The build is always kind of lacking. And I guess right around the time we were thinking about what to do here, I went out and visited you in London last year, Dusa.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know anything about Doctor Who at that point, and everyone was obsessed with it. And so when I got back, I said, let me try and see what this is all about. So around that time, I was watching Doctor Who, and it kind of gave me an inspiration. Doctor Who and Battlestar Galactica both gave me the inspiration to kind of do a satellite. I mean, a spaceship.
Mm. there will be uniformed people, and there will be a kind of adaptation of a uniform for each specific group of people. So, for example, the events people, customer service people, or security people.
Yeah.
Or, the big cheese people. Or the big cheesed off people. So, Sigmund, you the grizzly beard and what have you, I mean, do you see that if you're doing something like this, do you need a backstory?
I think you do. I think that we all play some sort of role in Second Life, whatever that role may be. It's just a question of how close or how far it is from your real life. But part of what you're doing is ultimately it is an entertainment. It's something that we do to pass away the time or while away the time. Mm-hmm. I think it's nice to have something there, and I know that I play that role of the reporter within Second Life, and I like to do that, and and I do some writing in real life as well. But the point is, having a backstory isn't a bad idea, and I think all of us will have our preferences and our choices for how we want to do it. Mine is perhaps a little like Recka's there, a little retro, but I think you can do it. The fascinating thing is that you can have that super modern, futuristic space station at the same time that you can have your desk with a typewriter, and that doesn't seem odd. In fact, that mishmash of cultures and time periods is part of what makes it real unique in Second Life.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, is that because there's a recycling element to it? I mean, there's a lot in space that is about, or in science fiction, or in science fact, but there is a lot to do with the sort of feeling of a post-apocalyptic feeling of heavy machinery. Now, I'm a real, heavy machinery girl. Well, it's true. I am. I do love heavy machinery. I like looking at great big engines, and I love the smell of motor oil, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where it comes from. There's nothing in my family to indicate this, at all. But I love it. I love this big clanky thing. And one of my favourite things about the space station is actually the engine and the sort of... I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to let people see that themselves for the first time and have the same reaction possibly that I did. But, all these big cogs and things. I mean, we know that Crap Mariner is very fond of cogs, for example. So that area of it seems to come from the archaic, doesn't it? And we sort of incline more to that than the fusion, the soft, clean lines of the perfect living, perfect clean air, perfect clean nuclear fusion, or whatever it might be, or stardust, or whatever that makes something run. Why do we have that element of
that
contrast?
Yeah, actually,
it's a contrast.
Sorry, Recka, go on.
So I think it's a contrast, I mean, if everything was, like you're saying, you're in a space station, you're in a obviously pristine environment that has to filtered air and all of that, and so in order to balance that, that's all I'm saying is that you're so far in the future, to contrast that, you go back into the past, and it offers the difference between everything being all white, and so you have a little bit of black and a little bit of white in the past and the future. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be my only explanation.
No, I'm going to... Sorry.
Personal preference. Beyond personal preference.
Rob, when you first had this idea, one of the things that was mooted was something dirty, grimy, grungy. Is that still there?
It didn't. Well, there is an area for that. It's not completely developed yet. But yeah, the original idea was to kind of have like a ship that kind of had classes of like levels. You had the lower level would be like where the the one room apartments are, and where the rust is, and and you'd have different segments of the ship that a rich segment where
It's quite interesting. I still don't know what the role will be, but as I said earlier, it is absolutely huge that, and as Rob has said, it's like a city. And as Sigma mentioned, looking at Second Life, you have all this mix and match flavor, and I tend to view it, despite the fact that from outside you've got these cogs and wheels, and it's very machine-like. Inside, and as you move around it, I think it's more like an ecosystem where, as Rob says, there'll be parts of the city that are, I don't know what you call them, lower class or whatever, and others that may be very opulent. I mean, I'm quite a big fan of science fiction romps like Blade Runner, and The Fifth Element is probably my favorite science fiction film. And, these are films that are kind of futuristic, but not everything is clinical. There's the dirty side to everything. And, the idea that a city in space can be an entire ecosystem, really lends itself to a bit of everything. We can have aliens in there, furries and stuff, and, a whole mix and match thing. And I think the environment you've created there really lends itself to that, because it's believable that you can have that mix and match in that small area. Well, it's not small, as I say, it's a city, but in that ecosystem. In very much the same way that you can walk across the sim in Greater Second Life, as it were, and move from steampunk into medieval fantasy and into a fantastic fantasy art build. You never know what's around the next corner. And I think that mix and match is going to be a good thing.
If I could bring up something for a second, Mal, that you mentioned it with aliens and stuff. I think Linden Labs had just recently released their couple with the pathfinding tools. Is that right?
Oh yeah, it's actually in the news this week. There are now officially 100 sims with pathfinding tools available in Second Life, which has AI scripting and various things. I haven't fully explored them yet, though.
So we may be able to add a fully functioning ship of people walking around in the future. That would be a nice addition.
Well, do you want to explain what the pathfinding tools are, Rob, before we go any further? Because, quite a lot of people who may not be sim owners, for example, would have understood it or come across it.
I'm not 100% sure on the technical details. I haven't really looked too much into it, because I kind of wait until Linden Lab finishes something before I take a look at it. But pretty much the pathfinding tools it's pathfinding tools and NPC characters. I think they're two separate things, right, Mal?
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not that clear, because until you actually experience them, you're never sure. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with scripting. A lot of it has to do with bringing artificial elements in. And as you say, NPC, it stands for non-player characters, which is basically the ability to introduce, I don't know, it might be an avatar that looks and acts like me, but actually isn't really me at all. It's a non-participatory element that's seen in world but doesn't exist behind the mask, so to speak.
Well, does that pull on the sim? I mean, how does that produce lag? If we've got a ship full of real avatars and then a ship full of assumed avatars.
Well, the pathfinding, or I think one of them is on the client side. So
right.
Everyone walking around, like if, say, for instance, pathfinding tool, you'd be able to script an object to walk around a ship and avoid obstacles. And the artificial, the NPC character, I guess they'd be introducing ways to have an avatar that's not actually a person, and you would attach that to the pathfinding tool, and then you would have someone actually walking around a ship.
There's something rather interesting, actually, which you not directly related to this. We should probably mention on the show quickly, since it hasn't come up yet. But as far as scripts are concerned, I think they'd be pretty much like at the moment. If something is too heavy on scripts, then it might cause lag and stuff. But recently, Linden Labs actually acquired the rights to license direct use of the Havoc engine, which is the graphics engine, the physics engine rather, that keeps Second Life going, so to speak. and it's their intention. Well, it seems obvious their intention that they're going to introduce more of the physics rendering into your browser, into the client-side viewer, because they've now got the rights to include parts of the engine in your download. At the moment, you get a viewer which simply interacts with the engine on the servers, whereas what we'll have is a new class of viewer where the engine is actually running on your local computer. And I think that will be very important to the use of these MVCs and things.
Well, how will that work for lower abilitied computers?
I think it would be fine. We obviously a good graphics card tends to be needed for Second Life and things like that. But the fact that your computer will be running some of the physics engine, if anything, it might perform better because everything will be done on your local computer. It won't be shoveling so much stuff up through the pipes to the servers. Obviously, communication still goes back and forth to the servers, but I suppose you can liken it a bit to Flash, which Adobe's Flash on the web, which is now being phased out a great deal because of iPads and stuff that don't run it. But you had this ubiquitous plugin, and it allowed you to run animation and very rich media in your browser. But in fact, the Flash plugin was always operating in your local machine. Whereas the web page it was sat on, as it were, was still in the cloud on the web, so to speak. And I think you'll find with the next iteration of something like a Second Life viewer, then it will start including a lot of stuff on your local machine that will offset the weight of that traffic online. I don't know what this means for third-party viewers, though. That could be a real problem, but we'll see.
Okay. Has anything come up for you this week, Sigmund, that you would like to talk about at all?
Actually, I'd just like to add a little bit to the discussion here as we're talking about it. Excuse me. Earlier this year, I think we got a hint of what might be coming with the artificial intelligence when Linden Lab acquired Little Text People, which is a company that was heavily into virtual reality, storytelling, and artificial intelligence. And the speculation at the time was that was so that they could move a little more into the realm of having the unreal undead who are going to be wandering around the Second Life. And I have to say that one of the things that has fascinated me while I've been in Second Life is that one of my favorite toys is an artificial intelligence, which is based on the Alice bots, which are they respond to your input, and there are a lot of psychotherapeutic tools. So I have in my little house this little bot that sits on a table, and I can talk to it, and it talks back, and sometimes it's profound, sometimes it's profane, and sometimes it makes no sense whatsoever. But the fascination with having some sort of artificial intelligence in my artificial world has always been exciting and interesting, and I really would like to start seeing some of these artificial intelligences within Second Life, and I'd be fascinated to sit and talk to them. By profession, I'm a linguist, so language itself excites me and interests me, but the opportunity to interact with unreal undead people wandering around the space station and finding out whether they're real or not would be the exciting thing. I think it's going to be great, and I hope that we do have at least one of those somewhere, even if it's just a bartender, which would be even better. I think
just don't put them close to a door.
Yeah, I hate the idea that the place will come full of zombies. No zombies allowed, please. But yeah, that would be great fun. I mean, there are people like Dayton up in the Midlands in the UK here who already do this kind of thing experimentally and will. But the idea that we could talk to our AIs is great. Yeah, great.
Well, they respond to anything that happens in chat. I made the mistake of putting steampunk AI next to a door, and so every time I would step up to the door, it would say Recka Wuyts is at the door, and the artificial intelligence would say Recka Wuyts is many things.
Yes, yeah, there are.
Now I'm imagining this bar where we have the AI bartender, and then the AI bartender is responding stuff. Maybe we have two AI bartenders, and then we have the AI bartenders talking to each other about absolutely nothing with no sentience whatsoever. Now, there's a conversation I'd love to sit and watch.
So we'll have the two AI bartenders and an invisible hand on this ship so far. So lots of little people running around showing everybody, or the one person who's going to arrive. Do not be overwhelmed by all this, ladies and gentlemen. In 2 weeks' time, we will take you around it, we hope, and give you a little glimpse of what's going on in there, and then you can come and see for yourselves on June the 1st, because it's going to be open house for about probably a week at this rate. But see what we've got planned, I think. Rob, what are your hopes for this?
My hopes are that people come in and they enjoy it and they decide to take part in what we're doing. I mean, we need help, the support of the community to come in and rent shops and rent apartments, and just team up with us to make this work.
I think you've touched on something here, which is about the energy that makes it work. So you can talk about nuclear fusion. You can talk about, how do the engines go, but actually the engine of any endeavour is the community and the team that puts it together, and then the team that comes along. All our groups, we've got our lovely Metaverse TV fans on Facebook and in World, and there's our subscribers and the people who watch it, and the many thousands of TVs that we've sent out there. And it's fantastic. But we don't get to see you in the flesh nearly enough, or in the avatar nearly enough. And so what we want you to do is to come along and have fun with us, really, and not see us. I'm not quite sure how we're seen. How are we seen, do you think, Mal?
How are we seen? Ooh.
How are we seen? Yeah.
Well, I think one thing actually I think is very interesting is you rightly say, all these immersive spaces, be it Second Life or anywhere else, are all about community. That's why we immerse ourselves in them. It may be to work, it may be to play or enjoy music art, but it is community. But what we do, you and I and Bob and all over the place really, is we are actually broadcasting. And, I do sometimes wonder if people see us the way we're appearing on TV. We are the people we are, and, behind these avatars. Some of us look like our avatars, some of us don't. But, because we are a broadcaster, I do think people often see it as, I don't know, the show, the program or whatever that's going out. And, their opinions of us are what they hear on these shows and things, or maybe people in the audience too. It's the same. It's the fun of being there. But I think you've hit the nail on the head in a sense, and that is that because we're a broadcaster and broadcasters, and we present ourselves that way a bit, it's hard to really know what the people think of us outside that context. I mean, I know from the people I meet. I know.
Trouble now.
Well, no.
Well,
I meet
I
people
would say I would say to a certain degree, Mal, that if you put yourself in an environment, for example, if you went to where I live, which is turn of the century, and somebody approaches you and starts talking to you, if you represent yourself as a broadcaster, well, then you're out of context.
Yeah.
So that's so I think that to a certain degree, that's what you're asking is and what we're asking is, so let's say that people do come to the space station. Well, then who are you going to be? Because if I come to the space station, I'm expecting to run into broadcaster. So if I see Rob walking around and I approach him, I expect him to act like a broadcaster and so on. Within the context of that, then, would there be a vampire who would be stalking Rob?
No,
Probably
actually,
many vampires would be stalking
there are
Rob.
lots of vampires stalk Rob.
Yeah, I think actually you're actually just saying the same thing as me, Recka, and that is, I think I'm saying, well, it's so great that come and because I'm just who I am. I played lots of different roles in different contests. I think we all do in real life as well as virtually. I'm saying people should come along and get to know us. Over and beyond what they see on the screen. I mean, an hour before we came on air, there was a tiny little pussycat, half the size of my boot, sitting on this settee, which was me in another avatar. I'm not always portraying myself. I do news, aggregation, broadcasting, all sorts of things. But in here, I take on different disguises, and I go to music. I post art stuff. I mean, there's a wide range of stuff there, and I think, I think it's just to say people come and meet us and to see, the wide variety of stuff that's going on. It's not all just this one program or just one other program. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. A lot of which is, we hold gigs and things like that that are never broadcast.
Can't be broadcast, half of them.
Yeah, exactly. If they're playing copyright songs and things like that, we can do it in world, but we can't broadcast it. So, there's a lot of activities we do between all of us that people should come and find out about.
Okay, so what do they get when they come here? What are they going to get? We've got some surprises for you. We've got some specials for you. We've got some designers and builders making things for you, especially. And it's not that we like to make people feel special and different, but we do. We like people to be special and different because we are all special and different in our own sweet, idiosyncratic ways. So apart from Sigmund Learminster, who will have 2 barmen modelled after himself. So I think that's fair to say.
Right.
Rob, the invisible hand, how is this going to work? Does that mean that you're a tribunal or something like that? In which case, I think you'd fix something. But anyway, how is it going to work? Are we going to have a brig?
Well, if people want to role play, I want them to be able to role play, and if people don't want to role play, I don't want them to feel forced to role play. I think that's pretty important that people are able to choose. I don't foresee any major role playing going on where, if you come in and you want to rent an apartment or you want to rent a shop, that you're going to have to, act or do something that, you're not comfortable with. So it's just something kind of cool for us to do. And, a lot of people are into this, but I don't want people to be forced to feel like they have to partake. Cause I'm one of those people that are probably not going to be like role play.
Oh, I see.
Is there going?
So he's not going to be sitting on the throne in the captain's cabin.
Well, no, maybe I'll be flying around the ship and shooting things and.
Well, it has to be said there are opportunities to do that around here. I mean, where we are, we should talk perhaps about what's on the ground, because there are elements that are spread onto the ground of a different kind of world. So, and that world is sort of sparsely occupied and is what's the word I should say? It's quite primitive in a lot of ways. I hope nobody's living there is actually hearing this, but it is quite a primitive world down there. So there are these elements where you can be in the space station and you've still got places to visit on a different kind of planet below. So
I would not want to take a swim in that soup.
Well, I'm saying nothing. So as we draw to a close, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to come around all of you, and how do you see this next sort of 6 months to a year panning out? That's how I'm going to go around. I'm going to start with Recka.
Well, my focus for 6 months was to get a somewhat of a writing staff going. That's sort of an ongoing thing, because there are people that come on, write for a while, and then have to leave for whatever reason. And so Bethany Slade, who's my associate editor, and my girl Friday, and I can't say enough great things about her. She takes care of so many things, and she should actually be attached to my right arm here. But she has been invaluable in helping get these writers, these applications, and people rolling, and we're beginning to get a cadre that is meaningful. We've got some dynamite people on our staff. Landa Crystal is just a crackerjack fashion writer. We just recently added Second Lie, and his blog is called The Grid's Honest Truth. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. And Natira Landar, who is a real Chicago newspaper woman, and she's just terrific and very knowledgeable and very helpful in so many ways. And so what we have recently gone into, the next phase for us, is to push ourselves out there with a new rate sheet, which Rob helped us design, and we've got available, and we're passing around. And we want to fill now our newspaper up with quality advertising, because that's really, as well as the story, it's about the advertising and bringing new products to the marketplace, introducing products, and providing links for people to go to the stores to buy the things that we are advertising. And that's what we're going to be doing over the next 6 months, is working at that.
Okay. Rob, what about the satellite for the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I'd like to get the, obviously, it takes time to fill it up, and, I mean, it's easy. It looks very small in the background here, but it's actually the size of a full sim. I think Mal said it earlier, but it's actually the length of a full sim, and it's pretty big, so it's going to take a while to fill up and make it home, if you will. But, yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about renting, ask yourself this: what are the Sims in Second Life have a newspaper and a TV station?
Okay, I think that's fair enough, don't you?
I think that's a good question to ask.
Mal.
Indeed. Well, actually, I actually totally agree with. Well, I mean, Recka's got a vested interest here, but I'd actually like to say publicly. I mean, I get feeds, from the Tribune all the while, and in recent months, it has just gone from marginal to there's plenty of feeds coming in each day, and a huge range of stuff there, including Second Life, of course, as Recka mentioned. So the Tribune, is becoming a great entity in its own right, I think. The next few months, I'm not sure. Hopefully, we'll be doing, returns of favorite series, doing new stuff, and doing stuff in the satellite too. I've actually got my desk ready to bring up, and although I love the old private dick journalist sort of thing that Siggy was going on about. I mean, I love it actually, but all my kit is high tech, sort of multi screens and high tech sort of stuff like that. And although at first I was a bit apprehensive with the old place going down, having seen this build, I thought, it's just perfect to cart this stuff into. So I don't know. We'll see what the future brings, but it's very exciting. It's like a new beginning. So great.
Lovely. And last but not least, Sigmund, of course.
Well, that sounds like a mutual appreciation society. I'm going to go ahead with the rest of the guys here and essentially say the same as they're doing. But what I hope will come out in the next 6 to 12 months as well is a closer vision of what we're doing in terms of broadcasting from the point of view of the television station and the Tribune, so that people can benefit from both of them. I know there are some folks who probably interact with us via the Metaverse TV and don't necessarily read the Trib. And then there are people who read the Trib who may never watch us on TV. And the more we can get people to appreciate that idea that we are a media service, and, hence I like to be involved in this and writing for the Trib at the same time, because I think the crossover is always fascinating. And as Rob says, where else can you go where you have a full service broadcasting system in Second Life that we're offering? So the closer we all work together on these things, the better it is. And two other things, yes, I would like to get myself a landmark. And if Mal's bringing his desk, I'm going to bring my desk, because I want my desk. But as I say, my desk has no technology whatsoever. It's a wonderful little desk. It's got the burled wood on there. It's got the leather top, and all I really need to get a hold of is a typewriter, and then I think we're good to go.
Oh, well, there you are, folks. You've heard it from the lads. What can I say? And something that is already apparent from the future coming into the present is that men are starting to multitask. So, think about it. And if you have a problem worrying about what it is that I'm talking about, have a look at the program again when it goes back up after the edit. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We are sitting outside the Metaverse Satellite, SS Metaverse, I think it is. And we are going to be cracking a bottle of champagne over its nose on June the 1st, and probably for many days thereafter. We'd love you to visit, I think it's fair to say. If you want to know anything about it, then just drop me a note card, do the Dragon Ash, or accost me in the street, and we'll be able to tell you anything, and I'll point you in the right direction for any of your inquiries. So there we have it, and it's a wrap-up now for us. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming along tonight and talking so succinctly on our subject.
Thank you.
Want to say goodbye? Any of you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start toasting now before the 1st, so 5 minutes after we finish here, I'm off to the pub, so there we go.
Also, stay tuned for the press release on the events for the opening and everything on the Tribune. So that's the MetaverseTribune.com.
What he said.
Okay, guys. I don't know. Right. We've come to the end of our program. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being with us. So come along and see it. June the 1st. You say what time? I think any time it's going to start. So take care, everybody, and from somewhere thousands of feet above your heads, it's good night from us, or good afternoon from us, or good morning, or bye-bye.